Well, I'm trying to reach him. This is in 2003. I'm trying to reach him to ask him if he's ever been involved in oil deals because I don't know the answer to that. So in 2003, you're saying you don't know the answer to whether he was involved in oil deals?
Well, I told you in my previous two answers. I knew that Mr. Zurikat was heavily involved in business in Iraq and elsewhere, but that it was none of my business what particular transactions or business he was involved in, any more than you ask the American Israel Public Affairs Committee when they donate money to you or pay for your trips to Israel, where they got the money from.
So, Mr. Galloway, you would have this committee believe that the designated representative for Miriam's appeal becomes the chair of the Miriam's appeal, who's listed in Iraqi documents, is obviously doing business, oil deals with Iraq, that you never had a conversation with him in 2001 or whether he was ever doing oil business with Iraq.
No, I'm doing better than that. I'm telling you that I knew that he was doing a vast amount of business with Iraq, much bigger, as I said a couple of answers ago, than any oil business he did. In the airport, he was the representative of some of the world's biggest companies in Iraq. He was an extremely wealthy businessman doing very extensive business in Iraq. Not only did I know that, but I told everyone about it. I emblazoned it in our literature, on our website, precisely so that people like you could not later credibly question my bona fides in that regard. So I did better than that. I never asked him if he was trading in oil. I knew he was a big trader with Iraq, and I told everybody about it.
So in 2003, when you said you didn't know whether he was doing oil deals, were you telling the truth at that time?
Yes, I was. I've never known until the Telegraph story appeared that he was alleged to be doing oil deals. But his oil deals are about 1/10 of the business that he did in Iraq. So I did better than telling people about his oil deals. I told them he was doing much, much more than that.
So Exhibit 14, which purports to be a contract with Middle East Semiconductor, contract M1214. Middle East Semiconductor, again, is Mr. Zurikat's company. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Right. So do you have any reason to believe that this document is false?
Well, the parenthesis, if the parenthesis implies, as you've been arguing all morning that it implies, that this was being signed for by Middle East Advanced Semiconductors in order to pass the money on to me, is false. Mr. Zurikat and Middle East Semiconductors or any other company have never given me any money. And if they had, you would have it up here on a board and in front of the committee here.
I take it, Mr. Galloway, that in regard to any surcharges paid to Saddam, and I think it's footnote 89, which refers to the surcharge for the contract focused on Miriam's appeal, you're saying that that document, first of all, any contract between Iraq and Miriam's appeals is false?
Well, Senator, I'd gotten used to the allegation that I was taking money from Saddam Hussein. It's actually surreal to hear in this room this morning that I'm being accused of giving money to Saddam Hussein. This is utterly preposterous that I gave $300,000 to Saddam Hussein. This is beyond the realms of the ridiculous. Now, the Mariam Appeals finances have been investigated by the Charity Commission on the order of Lord Goldsmith. You'll recall him, Senator. He's the Attorney General, practically the only lawman in the world that thought your war with Iraq was legal, thought Britain joining your war with Iraq was legal. He ordered the Charity Commission to investigate the Mariam Appeal. Using their statutory powers, they recovered all money in and all money out ever received or spent by the Mariam Appeal. They found no impropriety, and I can assure you, they found no money from an oil contract from Aradio Petroleum, none whatsoever.
And the commission did not look at these documents relating to this contract with Iraq.
No, but they looked better than that, Senator.
I'm not asking you better. I'm asking the question
Senator,
whether they looked at these documents.
Senator, you're not listening to what I'm saying. They did better than that. They looked at every penny in and every penny out. And they did not find, I can assure you, any trace of a donation from a company called Aradio Petroleum, or, frankly, a donation from any company other than Mr. Zurikat's company. That's a fact.
If I can get back to Mr. Zurigat one more time. Do you recall a time when you specifically had a conversation with him about oil dealings in Iraq?
I've already answered that question. I can assure you, Mr. Zurigat never gave me a penny from an oil deal, from a cake deal, from a bread deal, or from any deal. He donated money to our campaign, which we publicly brandished on all of our literature, along with the other donors to the campaign.
Again, Mr. Galloway, a simple question. I'm looking for either a yes or no. Do you ever have a conversation with the Zurigat where he informed you that he had oil dealings with Iraq? Yes or no?
Not before this Daily Telegraph report, no.
Senate 11?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Galloway. Mr. Galloway, could you take a look at the exhibit number 12?
Yep.
Where your name is in parentheses after Mr. Zurikat's.
Before Mr. Zurigat, if I'm looking at the right
I'm
exhibit.
sorry, I was going to finish my sentence. My question, though. My question was where your name is in parentheses after Mr. Zurikat's company's name.
I apologize, Senator.
That's all right. Now, that document, assuming it's an accurate translation of the document underneath it, you're not alleging here today that the document is a forgery, I gather.
Well, I have no idea, Senator, if it's a forgery or not.
But you're not alleging.
I'm saying that the information, insofar as it relates to me, is fake.
Is wrong.
It's wrong.
But you're not alleging that the document.
Well, I have no way of knowing, sir.
That's fine. So you're not alleging.
No, I have no way of knowing. This
is it fair to say, since you don't know,
well,
you're not alleging?
It would have been nice to have seen it before today.
Is it fair to say, though, that either because you've not seen it before or because otherwise you don't know, you're not alleging the document's a fake? Is that fair to say?
I haven't had it in my possession long enough to form a view about that.
All right. Would you let the subcommittee know after you've had it in your possession long enough whether you consider the document a fake?
Yeah, although there is an academic quality about it all, Senator Levin, because you've already found me guilty before you actually allowed me to come here and speak for myself.
Well, in order to attempt to clear your name, would you let?
Well, let's be clear about something.
Now, let me finish my question. Let me be clear about that first of all. Would you submit to the subcommittee after you've had a chance to review this document whether or not, in your judgment, it is a forgery? Will you do that?
Well, if you'll give me the original. I mean, this is not. Presumably, you wrote this English translation.
Yes, and there's a copy underneath it of the.
Yes, there is a copy of a grey blur. If you'll give me the original.
Copy of the original.
If you'll give me the original in a decipherable way, then of course
that'd be fine. We would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, if at the bottom of this document, assuming it's not a forgery for a moment, it says surcharge. Are we together?
Yeah.
As per the instructions of Your Excellency over the phone on 12/11/01 of not accepting the company's proposals unless they pay the debt incurred since Phase 8. If in fact, Mr. Zurikat's company paid a surcharge or a kickback to the Iraqi government in order to obtain an allocation of oil, would that trouble you?
Well, it turns out from your own testimony that practically everyone in the world, and especially the United States, was paying kickbacks.
My question, it troubles me a great deal.
Yeah.
As you've heard from my statement today, I'm very much troubled that we have an oil company that was involved in this, and we're going to go after that oil company. Now let me ask you. I've expressed my view about Bay Oil, so now let me ask you about Mr. Zurikat's company. If, in fact, Mr. Zurikat's company paid a kickback to the Iraqi government in order to obtain this allocation, would you be troubled? That's my question.
Yeah, it's a good question, and will you allow
will
you allow me to answer it
I'd
seriously?
be happy to, yeah.
Seriously, not in a yes or no fashion, because I could give you a glib.
Providing you give us an answer, I'd be delighted to